Ladies and gentlemen, tonight on the Jon Esca Show, we have Michael Rollins and the eminent, amazing, fantastic Troy. I'm going to butcher his last name, Naquin, from Quad Standard Labs. Hello, gentlemen.
Golf clap. Johnny.
So, all right. So two housekeeping notes before, well, three actually. First, both of these men are in Texas. We will talk about Texas tonight because it's crazy down there. The other thing is Jon just hit 5,000 subscribers. Let's have a full-throated clap for him. Wait, not a golf clap. Woo! There we go. I like it better. And the last one, I got maybe four. All right, so I have this gem right here. You know, we've been talking a lot about just businesses in general. So this is the FPV Flight Dynamics book from Christian Mollica. When I heard about it, I was like, some dude's writing a book about it. Does he not know that YouTube exists? This thing's fantastic. Like, it's not only is it like, first off, this thing is a tome. Right? Like that's a solid 1.5 inches of large paper. But it's really good. And I think the thing that shocked me, and like Logan has really dived into it. It's super funny. Like there's this one portion where he like compares flying a DJI drone to an FPV drone. And I think one of them is like something like stabilized flight. And the DJI is like, yes. And the FPV drone is like, no, don't put the controller down. So, just really good stuff. So
I wish you would have told us. We would have read it. We would have, had a book club meeting about it. I mean,
it would be fun to have a book club meeting around this. That'd be fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then finally, I'm going to plug myself. I am like 15 subscribers away from my next round number. If y'all want to hit the subscribe button, leave it there for long enough so I can get the dopamine hit for getting the next number, and then you can unsubscribe after that. I am totally cool with that, okay? So, all right. So tonight, Jon, are you there? Okay. Jon was sitting here like this.
You had me thinking he was.
Like, oh my God, they got Jon. So, all right. So, you know, as these have been going, we're talking a lot about businesses, about starting FPV businesses and doing things. And I think the interesting thing right here is that both Troy and Jon, and part of the reason I've had Jon co-host so many of these, is that they have both attained something that I wish I could do, which is replace some or all of their income with an FPV business, essentially. And I know Troy and I, man, how long ago was it, dude? Like
it's
2 years?
In almost 2 years, dude. Like, I mean, it was right around, I feel like January.
This time, it would have been maybe this time or a little bit later.
Yeah, I mean, I know it wasn't in March or April because so it was definitely sometime in January, early February. I feel like, I mean, it was not long until, I left where I was last time where we were talking, which was about business kind of too. So since then, I will clarify, because if I don't do this up front, then first of all, I'm not transparent and genuine like I usually am. And number two, I wouldn't be giving credit to my amazing wife and family. So first of all, I love the way you frame this, and nothing you said is incorrect. I have absolutely replaced all of my income that I was bringing in to our family.
Sure.
So outright, straight up, dude, my wife is the breadwinner, always has been. She's in an industry and has been rooted in an industry for over almost 20 years at this point. I mean, me and her have been together for 20 years. So the way that the income works, I have replaced my income with my company, and I'm doing better than I've actually ever done as far as income. So I do want to clarify though that I did not go from, hey, I'm going to just quit a job and go for not making money to like a bunch of money. Like it's not a bunch of money either. So anyways, I just want to stay up front. And I think clarifications to that. Love you, dude. Have the best, most supportive wife in the world. Wouldn't be here today without 20 years of being married. So,
and I think that's it's a really interesting point. And actually, I read the same thing John posted in the No Small Creator group. It's sort of a similar story, which is you don't just turn around and start a business. You have to build it, right? Like how has that experience been for both of you?
I'll let John. I mean, John started the thought.
I don't even know that John thinks of his as a business yet. Do you?
Yeah, I kind of.
It's more of a business than I have.
I guess I should, but it just still feels like a hobby that makes a little bit of side cash. But but yeah,
quite frankly, that's what I do.
Right.
But I like the fact that I do still have a day job. I can pick the things that I want to work on and choose to do, and I can regularly choose the hobby side of things over like the business side, because for me, like, I don't expect to ever make as much money as like a shop or somebody that's actually designing and manufacturing stuff, and I'm okay with that. I just want to be able to go out and fly and have a good time, and if I can document that in some way or review something that I wanted to check out anyway and just give my notes on it, the same way I would do at work if they were looking at a new product to purchase, then that's awesome. And I feel like that keeps me engaged. It keeps me entertained, because I have reviewed stuff that I didn't like and I thought it was cool. They were going to send me something free, and then you get it and it's like, oh man, I don't want to do that today. I don't want to do that today. And then before you know it, it's like, this is work. This was not worth it. Like the amount of hours you put in, it's like, and I only have a certain amount of hobby time, so whether that's doing channel stuff or going out racing all day or whatever, I can only get a certain number of those days a month. The rest has to be done, working or spending time with family. And if it's something I'm not interested in, I'm just not willing to do it. And so that's been part of what's held me at not wanting to do more. But I'm always interested to see people that have made it like their full-time jobs. And I've seen some that seem like they're burned out and some that really seem engaged and excited about it. I think Troy definitely always seems like he's like showing up to work in his new place for like the first time. And it's exciting to see him like so excited about it, because it's not just a day job. Like, I think you actually feel like it's something cool to do.
Right now I feel like it's important. I need to act out how I believe Troy wakes up in the morning. Okay. So just hold on, right? No, so it's like, woo! Yeah, let's go!
So not me. It's so funny.
Yeah, 100%. That's how you wake up every morning, Troy.
Man, it's so crazy because, like, I mean, it's a perfect dichotomy here in the fact that, man, like I started out much like John. Like, I was just enamored with what we were doing. I saw that, man, I could help people, and there was going to be a lot of people needing help because I needed help. And I knew that I could burn through some product and like maybe make some friends and maybe do some stuff. But like, I was way wrong. I mean, I quickly found out to do that. First of all, you got to have a following, you got to have clout, you got to have a reason why people are going to listen to what you have to say. But number two, it becomes a job. Like you said, like it becomes, hey, people from Amazon, let me send you a bunch of stuff and you just do some reviews. But you got to do, you got to send me some money first, or you got to do the reviews. And if you don't do the reviews, we'll never send you something. And it's like, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to genuinely share my experiences with people. So, I didn't know how to do it, man. I thought I would end up kind of like John, but then I quickly realized I don't have the care to edit or learn how to properly understand the fundamentals of how to piece those things together properly. I could hear it, I could see it. Hey, do a thumbnail. Hey, do this. Hey, do transitions. But again, until you studied the theory, I mean, and John knows this because it's his kind of his day job background. Until you understand like how to piece film together or content together properly, that's just, you're never going to overcome the biggest hurdles, right? And so that's what Mike does really well. Mike, I think I don't know where your your hobby or your background led you to very quickly develop such a skill at the way that you present yourself in your work. But it's definitely what catches people. I would guess that, I think from watching your early content and knowing you and knowing who you run in circles with, that Chad was very instrumental in kind of guiding you towards at least the focus of what it looks like right now on camera, right? And some of the lighting and some of that stuff right now. The rest of it was all you. And that's where, again, we're all the same, man. We pull stuff and pieces of the things we see in the community and in the other business. And for me, I mean, people know this already, or if they don't, I'm pretty well known, and I don't say that in I'm well known. When people know me, they know me for pushing back, asking questions that are hard or difficult to answer, because I know that they're difficult to answer, but I think that other people should hear the answer, right? Even if I might know the answer. And I know how that comes off. I think me and Jon have had this conversation. I had a literal call with somebody recently that on Facebook kind of took something this way. Like I was trolling, and they thought that then their troll was cool because they thought I was trolling. And I was like, I'm not trolling, bro. Like, I'm totally 100% asking this question. Like, because I know the answer to the question. You don't, but let's get to the, and so we actually had this whole conversation on the phone because, again, I was like driving and I was like, I don't want to have a back and forth on Facebook. So, I mean, at the end of the day,
I've had those conversations with you, Troy.
And I think we're going to make what we want out of that, right? So we all know what other people do and what we like of what they do, and we give them, we probably give them feedback and talk to them and want to help them. But at the end of the day, if you want to make this a business, you got to make it your own, and you got to do, like I just said, like take the little nuggets you can. But what you've learned to do, Mike, is really awesome, and the way that you interview and can hold conversation. And then Jon, dude, I mean, I think I've told you already, like I think you are the freshest voice in the reviewer category that if I ever needed to actually, if I was going to click on one of those things to watch, I'd click on yours. Like I'd search your review of something before I searched anyone else right now. And that's just because, again, I believe you, and I think you've found that space, and you've done what I wanted to do every level better than I ever could. So I just think it's really cool that you guys actually have really successful businesses that aren't stressful. But it's not much different than what I do.
Ask me that like a year ago when I set the world on fire by making people think that Chad Nowak had done terrible things to himself.
Oh man, we could have a whole show about that, bro. Come on.
No, but I will say this.
Had a conversation like that was one of the more.
Oh yeah, that was just that. You know what? I consider those experiences to be. You actually need them. Right?
Yeah.
Like you need them. Sometimes
burn down the bridge every once in a while. Just
well,
to see if you can build it.
I mean, and there is a truth in that, right? Where it's like, at some point you're gonna take your knocks, right? At some point you're gonna get a bloody nose. At some point you will fail, and everything you do up until that point in the vein of success is good. What you do after that is what defines you. Right? Yeah. You go ask for a raise and you get told, no, you're not worth it. Well, what are you going to learn from that? You're going to be angry and bitter, or are you going to take a lesson out of it and move on? Yeah. And like I know.
How many ways could you go from there too, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, what are the choices there? And I think that's what people miss. And especially like when we're talking about starting their own business or how to make something a business, they miss the how. Like, how to learn, like you just said, like, what do you take from that? Well, you can go prove your worth to that boss, or you could go prove your worth to another boss, or you could go prove your worth to yourself, right? Mm-hmm. Like those are three very quick solutions to that. Like, hey, let's react, So I think you're absolutely right. Like that's what I teach my son. I think that's where that comes from it's, hey son, it's not what you do now, it's what you do after, how you make up for it.
Has there, for you, Troy, has there been a point at which you feel like you did that, where you got a bloody nose, especially with Quad Standard Labs? Do you feel like there's a point where you got a bloody nose and you picked yourself back up and kept going? Have you reached that point yet? Because maybe you haven't, which is fine.
I mean, just honestly, I mean, like I think, and we actually kind of glazed over. We were going to chat a little bit, I think, up front. I thought about the Texas stuff. So this is a great.
We'll get to that.
Like, No, but this is a great segue. Yeah, I mean, nothing has been given to me, and whether nobody wants to say anything about that or not, I have wholeheartedly made what I have mine by taking my ideas and what I wanted to do with other people in their ideas, and in no way lay a claim to their ideas, but help apply those ideas in various ways. Because to me, it's always about that. And in building my company the way I did, it's very flawed. I mean, it's definitely a house of cards, so to speak. I mean, if certain things get pulled away, now that's where me as somebody that can grind something out and figure it out, and how am I going to pivot, or how are we going to make money? Now that's also built into the concept of the business. So, that's something that, again, when you talk about what do I want to do to start a business, that's very critical. And I think that's where everybody goes. So every month I'm beat up at oh my gosh, how am I going to pay? Do I have rent in the bank, and am I going to be able to pay for all the other product that I need to build the products that we're supposed to be building? So at the end of the day, absolutely every day, all day. But if you stay on top of everything and you're successful at it, then those things just continue to fall in place and continue to go. But man, this week has been probably like the weirdest for me as a human, that's gotten me out of my like it's really thrown me for a loop. And at first I thought it was a lot of the business like stuff that was like looming, that again, like, hey, it's end of the month, short month, hey, counting money again, just looking at stuff and going, are we good? And just thinking to myself, hey, I won't even lie, I've thought in the last couple of days or weeks, like, am I doing the right thing? Even before coming on this show, I'm like, man, is this really, like, should I be doing this? And on the drive over here, I'm like, yeah, man, you got this. Stay the course. You've always stayed the course. You've always been, you've always had questions, but you've always stayed, it works. Just do it. So anyways, this week of weather, Jon, dude, I know you have been going through, I don't know your actual situation, but from what we've pieced together from our small conversations, like you're in that bottom tier of folks that are really experiencing a lot of like outages and some issues with going on in Houston, the Houston area, pertaining to the weather. Me, myself, the crazy thing was I wasn't dealing with too much of, oh my gosh, we're going to not have water. We're not going to have power. We're not going to have whatever. It was a whole lot of just instabilities. And those instabilities, Troy very quickly tries to stabilize. And how do we find a path to stability just for everybody so we can just manage? So we would, came here. But man, like having this crazy 180 in this weather, that it wasn't just a 180 in the weather. It's like a 180 in the weather for a sustained time. And it was just an extreme 180 and an extreme, result. Like it was compounded with the then individualized, oh wait, I went to the store a day earlier than we normally do. I went on Saturday instead of Sunday because I just had a feeling. And I went at a time where I was like, man, I should probably get up and go. And I almost waited 2 more hours, but I didn't. And I got to a store and I had to drive 2 stores down to get to it, but I got to a store and I got enough food to get through this weekend that I was, easy to cook stuff for what we have. And I left. And by then, like every store had lines around the building, if they even had stuff. And the weather came down that night and it was just lockdown. I mean, it was just, it wasn't pandemic lockdown. It was, you can't go nowhere if you want to go nowhere. And
right, Troy, you're at like 3.3 volts. Your life was almost done.
Yeah.
Where's this going?
Sorry.
So, all right. So you guys are, so, all right. So first off,
I wanted to talk about the weather. Like,
yeah, you're in Texas, right? Like you're in Texas right now.
Like that coupled with the business, like the everyday business, like, hey, are we, the worries and the days, like, dude, it's got like, that has been, yes. So this past week for me has just beaten me up in the sense of mentality where I'm normally a hardened person in that area and I'm not today. So sorry.
So is it hitting you in the sense of like security or just in like, cause I've been like, you guys are effectively living through a disaster right?
Yeah.
Like you are now living through a disaster. And I know for me, I've lived through countless hurricanes, right? But one of the ones that really sticks out to me was like 98. I lived in Greenville, North Carolina. I think I was a college student at the time. And Hurricane Floyd came through. And at first, it was like a category 5, and then it became a category 3, and then it became a category 2. We're like, all right, great, we're fine. It was one of the largest, like by footprint, hurricanes that had come through in a long time. And that sucker rolled onto the coast of eastern North Carolina, rolled over Greenville, North Carolina, and stopped. And it dumped feet of rain on the entire region for like a day and a half, to the point where Greenville is kind of a little bit built up on a mound. Greenville was completely cut off from everything else. The only way to get in and out of the city was either via boat or via air. And air via helicopter, because the airport was the first thing to go underwater. And so we were and then, 12 hours into it, that someone had decided to build the substation that powered the whole city on a floodplain, and it was gone. And so we went through a whole week without power and without much coming into the city. And I know you guys are both in a very similar circumstance right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the uncertainty. I mean, I think Jon could speak to it on his end again more, because he's been more uncertain about when's it coming on and stuff. But just to finish where I was going, I wasn't trying to like go on and talk about, I was just trying to say the totality of the uncertainty that was ever changing. So it's like, today is the weather going to freeze us in? Tomorrow do we have, electricity? When are we going to have electricity? Then it was, oh no, now we don't have water. And you compound all those things on top of each other, man. And it wasn't just braving the storm. It was storm after storm after storm. And the storm just kept changing, So I don't know. I think Jon, again, could speak to more, because down in Houston, I think they've had a lot more uncertainty whenever they've been affected.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't too bad for me. I had 17 hours with no power, which is not that bad, but then it was below freezing. So the house started getting really cold. Everything in the fridge started getting really hot. And it's like, man, it's like, 20 degrees outside. So should we put some food outside? Should we go buy bags of ice to keep the freezer cold? And, the roads weren't that safe, but it wasn't too bad for me personally. It came on after 17 hours. My sister had no power for 52 hours.
Jeez.
And the power came on at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and 15 minutes later it went out again. So she said it was only enough for like everyone to wake up and be like, oh yes, it's here. And then it went back off
and then
again.
Just be crushed.
Yeah. My mom's in Houston, and she had power. She didn't have power for almost like 60 hours or something. Also, it was like almost 3 days, and then came back on, and like they cooked dinner, and then like as they were eating, it went out. And it came back on like every couple of hours after that. So she's good now, but yeah, crazy.
I know, but, from where I've come from, and keep in mind, like, some of my perspective is not just like the natural disasters. Like, I've had, a 2-year-old son with cancer.
Right.
And by the way, I'm not trying to throw that card as I'm the biggest, baddest mofo here in this chat. But to actually bring out the point that, the uncertainty will get you, right? Like, to your point, Troy, it's like, dude, when you wake up and you don't know what's going to happen, or when you wake up and, in the middle of the night and things have already changed, it can be terrifying, and it can also wear you down. Like, it can kick you to the curb so fast.
Well, I mean, you said, how do you wake up every morning? And it's just funny. I think one of the reasons why I was like, nah, man, it's not like that is, these last 4 or 5 days waking up. Again, the reason I mentioned when I went to the store and what happened after that was, we now have food, but when things got critical on like Tuesday, and it was like, wait a second, this isn't just Saturday, Sunday, Monday. This is Tuesday, maybe Wednesday. Literally, it just started melting here a little bit today. The roads are really still pretty unpassable for a lot of vehicles. And you're just like, man, like people are now like getting all the food that's there. The food's now, there's no trucks coming, or even when they get here, they got to still fill up everything. And then people are going to buy that. Like, it just starts becoming every morning like, oh, what's today's crazy thing? Like today I got up and I had to go get water. I did. I went and bought 14 liters of water at a Sprouts, and I literally took the last probably 14 of the last 30 bottles there. You know what I mean? Now, hey, we have almost very little. We don't have any water at my house right now. So we don't know when we're going to have water back. We think it's going to be tomorrow, but we're still going to be under a boil notice for, I mean, they think maybe even up to like 4 or 5 days here. So just drinking water, we're going to have to boil freaking water. So that being said, again, at the end of the day, I've been blessed to be, and I think Jon, it sounds like, has had, though I still say it sounds like he struggled more than I did with the electricity. I've been great. Like, we've made it through it. But the fact that still was such a mental blow to me is what just still blows my mind. Like, it came to me yesterday afternoon. We were driving here, and I turned to my wife and I said, I think I just realized, like, this is really like a mental weight. And it's like, I couldn't even, I communicated it to her. I was like, I'm not depressed, but it's something. And I think knowing we're going to sleep in our beds last night, like, is going to be a good thing for us. And so anyways, that's all. I just think that people should really consider when they're, talking about, oh, Texas can't take some weather, that it's much more than just it was cold, it was snowing, we don't have the right tires on our cars. You know what I mean? Like, there are people dying and still without electricity and water and gas. And so anyways, yeah. It's been a rough week.
Yeah. I mean, so, talking about our just, you brought, it was a good segue, Troy, into, all right, well, have you gotten a bloody nose and have you stood back up?
Oh, yeah.
And, how do you think that living in that kind of uncertainty, like Jon, like, how does this affect you? Right? Is it just kind of stay the course? Because I feel like Jon, like Troy and I are kind of like kindred spirits, right? It's like we're all emotion, we're all in, right? And I feel, Jon, you're just kind of steady pace, right? Like, what is your thinking in an uncertain situation like this?
It was the toughest part for me, as dumb as it sounds, is when the power went out, all of the cell signal went out with it. So I couldn't even like text my boss to say like, I can't get on. Like, I couldn't work, and I couldn't tell anybody I couldn't work, and I couldn't ask my family if they were okay, and I couldn't like check any of the Facebook groups so it's like I had to just sit there for hours and hours, and it's not terrible because I still had water. It hadn't reached like 30 degrees inside yet, but like you said, not knowing how long it was going to last. And but I mean, I had food. We have a gas stove, so we were still able to cook. All my beer in the beer fridge was still cold at that point. So like my other buddy, like, we were able to send like one text like every 5 hours, and I got one from him, and he's thinking like, okay, should I throw the beer outside or should I start drinking it? And I was like, oh, dang, I guess I better get to mine now.
Yeah. So we lost power over the summer, and this is in no way, shape, or form the same. And, I've been without power in the summer countless times, right? It's when the hurricanes roll through everything. It was actually a couple of years ago, we lost power during the winter. And I was terrified because we couldn't heat the house. And I'm just sitting here going, dude, we could actually die. Like, it's a lot harder to die from heat than it is freaking cold. And so, once the temperature starts dropping, that's not fun. That's not good.
When like my grandma's like 90 something years old, and her power went out, and I think she said her water went out, and I was like, well, do you want me to come get you? Like, I can come get you. And she was like, nah, I don't want to go anywhere. Like, the roads are not. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, she was like, I'm fine. I got a blanket.
I'm fine. I got a blanket. That's awesome.
I'm like over here crying because I can't check my Facebook
fear. Grandma. She's like, I got a blanket. Go away. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get back to the business. No more
the business. The business.
The business.
The business. All right. So, Troy, I know so a couple years ago, you and I were talking. You had been dealing with your last gig, and things were going differently than you had expected. Um, and it's, I kind of encouraged you. I was like, hey, man, go take a step out, see what you can do.
Yeah, I mean, let's just say for what it was, you were probably one of 5 very instrumental people in me starting Quad Standard Labs from a standpoint of supporting me in the idea that I was worth something, quite frankly. And as silly as that sounds, I never really gave myself enough worth. My wife, again, I said in the beginning, I'm very supportive. Always through this whole journey of me making a career of this, which if you want to know about the career, you can go watch the other episode and where that took off or left off. But basically, for 5 years, I made myself a employee of other people in the drone space across a wide range of the industry. I learned a lot. They afforded me a ton of opportunity and a ton of experience. But in the end, I was basically left with working for someone under their brand that I full-heartedly loved and believed in, but they didn't really believe in me, in my vision for how to take that brand into the next kind of movement. Because for me, where that company and where we were, and people can say, I was at Flynoceros, you can go back and look. I thought we had something that we could really move forward with in the same way that basically what I've done with QSL, quite frankly. So when that contract or that agreement for me to work there came to an end, and I left, I started applying to be a chef again. I literally filled out on Indeed, and I even looked at some product managers and project managers titles that I had held at other companies in the drone space, and I was looking at drone jobs. But in the back of my mind, I was about 50% committed to this is going to be I got days to decide. I got to make money because I got to grind, man. I got to bring money into the family, So, reached out to some people and said, look, this is what happened. This is where I'm at. This is what I'm thinking. What do you think? And Mike, you technically offered me a job. You didn't offer me a job, but you were like, man, I think we have something at my company. I might be able to swing your way. Let me know if it gets to that point. And I was like, dude, that's crazy. That's nuts. I ain't gonna lie. I almost pulled that ripcord once or twice.
Right.
But each time I came up to there, I went, hold on. Troy, we're going to grind this out. We're going to figure this out. So talk to some people. You, Gab. I actually talked to Nurkula, Paul. I talked to, Andy. I talked to Chad. I talked to, I don't know, just all kinds of people, probably at least 10 to 20 people. But you were in that top 5 of people that were pushing me to find what I wanted and go for it. And so anyways, I decided that I was going to start a company, and I didn't know what I was going to call it quite yet. I bought a couple of domains, Quad Factory starting with a K, and some other stuff. And
thank God you didn't choose that one.
Oh my God, dude. My
friend, oh my God.
My branding homie, dog. I send it to him and he goes, dude, no, don't you dare.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
It was just the funniest conversation. So anyways, I end up with finding it just kind of all happened in a couple of moments where another friend of mine made, I came up with Quad Standard Labs and I gave him the idea and he shot me over the branding, a full branding package overnight. And I was like, guess that's the colors and that's the logo. Let's go. So made some business cards and went to AUVSI 2 weeks later. And I just, again, getting back to what I said earlier, you got to have a plan. You got to have, you got to understand how you can make money. And if you have one plan, you better be damn good at it. And you better be able to prove that you can make money at it. But in most situations, you got to have multiple kind of things going. So went to AUVSI and just talked to people there. Met a bunch of people I've been in the industry knowing for the last 5 years, going to trade shows with, explained what I was doing. And really, man, Quad Standard Labs took off from there. I mean, we had clients within 2 weeks that were paying us to do work outside of FPV that we were developing products for, software and hardware stuff. And while doing that, I was able to really focus on when we were building drones, we were going to build professional grade tools and only the tools and only the ways that people need them to do the work, so we could apply that in a lot of ways. And so that's where working with Andy and all the other, Gab and everybody, actually Gab was one of the guys I talked to on those phone calls too in that first week. And he literally told me, because I wanted to work with him, I wanted to sell Ichabods. And he was like, I can't do that. TBS just started doing that. And I was like, damn it. So he's like, but I got something really big. And he said big, but I didn't know what he meant. He said, I have something a little bit bigger I want to work on. I was like, okay. Dude, like 8 months later, he calls me up and was like, Troy, it's time. Let's have a call. And I was like, okay. And that's where this whole cinematic lifter thing came. So anyways, that's
it was
as short as I can be.
I had seen, and that was, I remember, I think it was Andy Shen tagged you in, because, Gab was just, not only was he flying FPV for, it was some kind of winter games. It wasn't, the Red Bull, the Red Bull Winter Games.
It's called natural selection, where they get to basically, it's powder, and they get to go carve their own lines through the snow, and so it's like total freestyle, like free form, or competition.
But the crazy thing about that that thing that he did was that he wasn't the B camera, he was the A camera, and that is like, that's bonkers, right? Like the A, and if John, you can probably appreciate this. I mean, tell me, like, you tell me about it, because I know a little bit, but I think you know far more than I do.
Well, so he was flying what was essentially the main camera for that project.
Well, I think what Michael says is the way they ran it, and the way that because it performed the way it did, basically the entire production focused around the
FPV footage
of the pilot. And I took away from that too. I'm curious of your perspective, John, like Michael is, because of your background. But
I mean, it's still not even done in most places to this day. Like anybody that's on set taking shots, and a real good example is Nurk's latest video where he teams up with Mark Rober. You can see him do a vlog on traveling there, doing a lot of really cool shots. He showed several shots, and then go to the finished video, and it's only a few seconds of runtime. And so that's kind of, you're just a tool, one of many cameras on set. And so to be even one of the main cameras, much less the main camera, is huge for anything flying.
Right.
Absolutely.
What's crazy about that is I didn't even understand. I didn't even know what natural selection was until about 3 days before I shipped them. So I shipped him three Sicarios that he kept telling me, for natural selection, I need 3 Sicarios, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, here's an invoice, pay it, blah, blah, whatever. Funny enough, I actually paid him for those drones, technically. I owed him a bunch of money for royalty payments. Anyways, so at the end of the day, though, I send him, and I'm about to send him, and I'm like, isn't this like, and I actually you can go back to my Instagram, and I posted the stack of drones, and I put for natural selection, and I put little animals. I don't know why I thought this was for Discovery Channel, dog. Like, I thought he was used for like chasing animals around the Amazon. I'm like, natural selection, of course. So I'm about.
Troy's got like a lion following a giraffe.
Well, the other thing is I swore he told me I needed to ship them to Florida by a certain date, and I was like, yeah, we could totally do that. And then he changes at the last minute to Wyoming, and I'm like, wait a second, bro. What are y'all shooting in Wyoming? And he was like, the natural selection thing. And I was like, what are you talking about? And so then I looked it up, and I was like, oh. And then he showed me the pictures of what he was going to do with it. And I was like, wait, that's what those are? Okay. So, I mean, Mike, dude, you're right on, though, man. The crazy thing is I didn't even really know. I didn't realize that I would love to have, you should have Gab on to talk about it, because what they did was incredible to so many levels, deeper than just even the days of the shoot. He basically, this was proof of concept, which means, like John just said, like they hired him and his team, which was Jordan and Bryce, and they hired them with the understanding that they said they could do this. And so this was them showing up and saying they could do it. And so to me, that's what's badass. that they were able to get embedded into the industry to a level that someone trusted them enough that once they put it all down and said, sure, here's the money, bring us the drones, you guys set up and let's do it. And it's literally like you're seeing it unfold in real time, where it's like you kind of think in that first run, you're like, ooh, is this going to work? Is this going to really be good? And then is it going to be like repetitive enough? And the way they just were slamming packs, man, and they had like Gab had already had that thing to a science of, he knew the formula of, I've got to go in there and we've got to fly back to back to back. And the drone's got to be in the air every minute that it can. And we've got to be able to do this. And they did it, man. And they did it to a level that, yeah, Red Bull basically continually focused on nothing but the drone chase camera. If it was in the air, they were using it. And that to me is the most substantial step forward for the application, not just specifically of the broadcast, but the people that took notice of that in the creative and the, you know, the DP side, the actual shooting side of all of these different things, from live events to movies and TV commercials. Like, they're now seeing every time something gets used, like it's more and more adopted and accepted. And like Jon said earlier, you know, go to a set and look, and that's what you're going to kind of see happen. Is like, it's not what people think it is. Like, it's this big fancy thing and it's a big party and everybody, oh, hey, come do your job for a second. No, you're going to get screen time. Like, it's a lot of stuff that has to come together. And it's a lot of individual moving parts that have to work. And so, yeah, man, the Red Bull stuff was crazy to see.
Yeah. So, I remember just watching some of the footage from that. I didn't actually catch if it even had a broadcast. I didn't catch it.
No, it was just on like Red Bull TV or whatever.
Okay.
It was like on their TV app.
Yeah. I mean, it was just, I was watching it and I didn't even, like, I remember watching some of the footage and just not even thinking about it being FPV, because it was just, it was there. But now they were, is this Sicario? Is that what it is?
Yeah, they had 2 or 3. Well, they had 4 Sicarios, I think, in total, but we sent them 3 of them. And then Gab built the camera system that set up on it. I'm not 100% on all the specifics as far as the actual camera. It was like it starts with an M. I always forget the name of it. Marshall. It's like Jon, you might be familiar with the Marshall stuff. It's like a CCD camera that's like 1080, super high quality, can stream super fast with like SDI or whatever it is that they use to stream that stuff on high broadcast stuff. I don't remember what it is.
Yeah, apparently Flying Ryan is building one. So and I know Nurk has also done some stuff with that one, I think with a red camera on it.
Yep.
Which is like you're flying a car.
Yeah.
on your drone. It's like, I remember the first time Nurk told me that someone had let him mount a red camera on his drone. I was like, did you power loop it? He's like, I did. It's like, okay, man, you're not my hero. So yeah, man, it's just crazy to think about that, you know, like this little hobby that we've got is growing into something like that. And that you know, we all three have found our place in this niche. But it's pretty interesting that there's more headroom than we might've thought, right? Like it's now not just a hobby. It's actually becoming a business.
Yeah. I mean, that to some degrees. Yeah. I mean, I would say this. I don't know I know and probably mostly because of me, we diverge and get into different things. But I think if people are looking to use FPV as a business, like a career move, like it's not a career move. Like, again, you guys have this kind of perfect in the sense of, if you want the hobby to be your hobby, man, make it be a side hustle. Like, make it be something that is part of what you're giving back to the hobby, as well as what you're doing to keep you motivated, right? Like, so that's why I love what you guys do. Like, I'm more honestly, like, I look to you guys and I'm jealous of the fact that you do get to kind of have that control and stuff, and you do have day jobs to fall back on, which I do kind of regret not having every once in a while. And I've thought about what would my next day job be. But yeah, man, I mean, it's just, if you're gonna try to make a career of this, you really need to understand that, like you said, this is bigger than just a little drone and a pilot. And I think that's the biggest thing is pilots and drones are just the tools, and it's all of the stuff that goes into making that. And like what I want more of is more creative people, more DPs on sets that understand FPV, and people that want to apply FPV. Like that's what's going to make FPV a bigger industry. But there's still two different things. Hobby FPV is a whole nother animal. I mean, it's another business. And that's what you guys kind of contribute more to. So, what I'm trying to contribute to is less of the hobby side, which doesn't mean I don't like hobbyists. VP of our flying field at AMA, and I love hobbyists. And if you're a hobbyist, you need something, let me know. I'll try to help you out. But we don't target them as with the brand. Right. And I think that's the other dichotomy that has to always be understood is there's difference in professional FPV and hobbyist FPV. Like,
oh, for sure.
1,000 times different. Like they're just totally different animals.
Yeah, for sure. No, it is. And, I've flown once or twice on set. It's definitely a different experience. And having done, some small amount of editing and filming and whatnot myself, it's, you do realize when you're there that, hey, it's very likely that you're just going to be a few seconds. Right? Like in a
be able to do what they need you to do, right? Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah. And they're like, hey, can you do this thing where you get like right up in there? It's like, no, I can't. I'm not I could, and I could also possibly rip her face off if anything goes wrong, and that's not safe, But yeah, no, it is definitely like, Nurk said something interesting, and I really did take it to heart. He said, if you're looking to be a pilot in this space, in the FPV film world, that's probably pretty much already set for a while, right? Mm-hmm. There's a top 10, maybe 15 guys around the world that people are going to call, and you might get some stuff like, on the side here, in a local venue or something. But, if you want to go fly for Mark Rober, or if you want to fly for Red Bull, or if you want to do what Finky does, over in Europe, they kind of got their guy. But the thing I was getting at is that it's not just about the pilot, right? It's not just about the drone. There's an extraordinary amount of space that people can fill to the sides, which Troy, you do, Jon, you do, I do to a degree. Some of it's content, some of it is, the actual building, like being able to ship somebody a drone that can carry a red camera and consistently be able to output that thing is a skill that is actually really necessary when you start thinking about the fact that, how many shoots is Gab going to go on, and how different are each of the rigs that he's going to have built for each of those shoots. And,
well, I think you brought up something in the beginning, the book. It's another good example, right?
Right.
I mean, that book. So the funny thing is, okay, let's talk about the book for a second. So I think, and I could be wrong, but I bet you there's a lot of OGs out there like me and Jon to some degree that look at that and go, what? Like even Mike said, and you're like, this has to be a joke. There's no way this could be beneficial or whatever, right? And we just, at the end of the day, I'm going to God, I don't want to buy that book, but I'm going to buy that book. Right. Because honestly, it's a perfect example. I didn't get off my ass and write a book, but I talked about it. I thought about it. I thought that somebody took all of that time. So that person made their way, right? Made their niche. And you know what? If that person puts out a second book, they're going to start to become,
the book guy.
Start to become the source. And if you don't like what they're saying, go out there and write your own book, right? And that's how books get written, and different people write about the same topics in controversial and differing opinions. So I think that that's amazing. I really do. You actually talking about that book, whether it's a shameless plug or not, and I love the way you did that.
Hold on. I will say, Christian has no idea that I did it. He did send me the book. You were
doing it as a test, though. I feel like you were running
No, I get where you're coming from, because it would be a fantastic sponsor. By the way, folks, today's episode is brought to you by FPV Flight Dynamics from Christian.
We were just trying to soft test the idea of how could we, product.
At some point, yes. At some point, I will do that, and that is actually in my plan.
I liked it.
No. But for this instance, I mean, this guy. not only did he send us one, he sent us two, one for me and one for the kids.
That's
And
awesome.
so, I mean, dude, genius. I mean, just genius marketing, right? Like Nurk has one, I have one, like all these people that are, FPV influencers, which I'm not, are, they have it in their hands, but it is also a quality thing.
Well, I got the
right?
email from Rotor Riot too, so
Oh, you did? I
both
hadn't.
my
Yeah.
email accounts,
Oh, I gotcha.
No.
Yeah. No. Speaking of Rotor Riot, this is funny. I was watching Amadi Hapoya, his office tour video. Like I enjoy a lot of his stuff. I've actually tried to get him on here, but I can't yet. So we'll see. If I can get him or Charpu, I think I might have to take Charpu. But he was like, he pans over and all of a sudden there's like this rack of, this shelf of drones, and he picks them up. He's talking about them like a guy can actually fly. And he goes, yeah, these were built for me by Rotor Riot. I was just like, you guys go, man. That's awesome. So
that's great.
But that's right. X-Jet. He is here, ladies and gentlemen, the man himself. So, speaking of reviews, this guy right here has made his name in this space forever. But, Jon, I know this is born out of the enjoyment for you. Do you want to take it bigger? What do you think about?
I'm focusing now on trying to actually come up with a plan to get to, because the plan evolved over time. Like at first, when I started doing it, I was like, well, let's just make it like 5 and see what happens. And it wasn't that boring to do. And then I did 5 more. Mm-hmm. And after like the 30th, I was like, if I could pay for half of my hobby, like that'll be awesome. And then that happened. And I was like, if I can pay for all of my hobby, that'll be awesome. And then that happened. And I was like, if I could make like a little bit of money, like that'll be awesome. And so now I'm like, okay, now I have a little bit. And now I'm like, okay, what do I need to do to like equal my day job in maybe 5 years time or something like that? So I'm trying to think a little bit bigger. And I mean, I'm trying to see what other people are doing in other niches. I watch a lot of other people's reviews, see how they do it. I really thought that the FPV reviewer space was a little like everyone was real bland and not really doing a lot of production value, and there was only a few people.
Are you calling Bardwell boring? I just want to understand here.
Well,
are you calling Bardwell boring?
I don't count Bardwell as like a pure reviewer. I think he's more of like something more valuable to the industry. He's more of like a teacher, and he reviews things like intermixed in there. And so he has a skill set that I have done for work, and I can't imagine. And so I know how much work he does to like explain all that stuff. Like I couldn't do it if it was my hobby. Like I would get burnt out. I don't even attempt. And like Bruce, X-Jet, he's really naturally funny in front of the camera. So he is that. Like there's a few people that I watch, but mostly they're outside of FPV. And so for me, it's like, okay, find out what I'm good at. I can edit. I can just talk off the cuff about products because I've touched all of them. So I can compare naturally. I know what the popular ones are. So if I'm reviewing a lightweight 4-inch, everybody wants to know, how does it compare to the Flywheel Explorer? How does it compare to the Armatan? How does it compare to the Catalyst Machine Works? And so then it's real easy just to do that without a lot of preparation. And it's like, how do I strip all the extra stuff out so that I can make a video? When I first started, I was like, I want to be able to write, shoot, edit, and upload a video in an hour. And that's just because I knew how to do all that stuff. And I think that's what a lot of people struggle with doing. And now I'm trying to add like little stuff like the green screen and make it sound better. So it's taking me a little bit longer to do that stuff. But it's all about how do I do it, shoot for the next level, and not get myself bored. Because I know if I started, I could say I'm going to do 5 videos a week. And if I do that, I'll start to get, the threshold for how much I can handle will start to go too high. I'll start dropping too many things. And it's already getting to a point where people are showing up, or stuff is showing up for me so frequently. I think I have 7 videos already uploaded and scheduled for like the next 2 or 3 weeks. And like something new will come up, and like I got to review it and launch it, and I got to push all 7 of those back a little bit. And like if DJI V2 goggles show up,
gotta love.
Okay, Jet's got a green screen too. He uses that as a hanky. I'm gonna work that in. I actually bought some green screen gloves when I first started doing the green screen, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna hold a quad, and then my hand's gonna be invisible or something." And I didn't really know what to do with it, but now I need the green screen hanky.
So I think what's awesome about what you were just talking about, man, was the fact that I think, again, so many YouTubers kind of fall into that, right? Like the way that you were talking about. So first of all, the goals that you keep talking about, which I think it's great that, Mike, you keep bringing it up, is, you seem very goal oriented. And I think people like me, especially, like, I don't know why, like I was always adverse to saying, I'm going to set goals. And I think it was because of the industry I was in before, like a restaurant industry. Like setting goals are great and all, but man, you just got to do the work, right? Like that's one of the things that in restaurants, like people fail at, is they set goals for sales, but then they don't think about the quality or like the customer interactions or just the user experience or the customer experience, right? Like when you get all the other things right, like you can meet your goals very easily. You can set other goals, but I think for you, man, like you've set attainable goals. So like I've always been adverse to setting goals, but when I started the company, I decided like I've got to decide like what's going to be a benchmark or a measuring point that I'm going to say that was a success, and I can move on and focus on building something bigger and better, right? A little bit more, a little bit wider scope or whatever. So I think what you were talking about, man, is awesome that you have to set those achievable goals and they have to kind of still mean something to you. But when you reach them, you can't just stop. You got to keep adapting and keep being agile. Is okay, how do I take on more? How do I grind out a little more? But you also touched on the fact that you got to keep that in perspective to the content and what your original vision is. And you don't want to overrun and put a bunch of stuff out there because, the too much content, and even if it's good quality, it's still just, it's not going to be a positive. It's always going to be just kind of overrun, right? You're not going to get the full blowback out of it or the full pushback out of it. So I used to be very much like you with or very much I got to shoot it and edit or die was my term when I was doing Chef PV stuff. Was like if I had content canned, it had to get edited that day or it just died. Like I couldn't see it again. I didn't want to mess with it because it just built up so much. So I can't imagine how someone like you or Bardwell or any of these other people could manage just stuff coming in and man, I got to do this. And if you're already creating your own list of ideas, because I know how that goes, you make a list of I want to make this video and this video and this video. Oh wait, this video would be really great too in between those, and you end up with your own vision and then people send you stuff and wreck it because you got to do what they want. So I just think it's crazy, man, that you're able to achieve what you do, and the content quality is just on par. I mean, like you said, that's what your focus, or that was what your initial action was. Like you got called to action because you were like, man, I'm going to make quality content in this area. So I think you do, again, just something that's really awesome for everybody, man. So don't devalue yourself.
It sounds like, yeah, I'm doing a lot, but I have to compartmentalize and make different types of tasks. So it's true. Like I have probably 10 different videos worth of stuff shot in different stages. Like I might have the FPV portion shot or the product shot or me talking shot. And so I have all that stuff. I have about 10 products that I haven't worked on yet that I have to either build, open, start flying. Then I have another 10 products where I got to do one of those shots and maybe the other ones are done. And then I have some that I got to do editing on. And so every day on my lunch break, I got like an hour I can work. And so I can decide, is today a shooting day? No, I don't feel like taking a shower. It's not. Let me edit something. I don't feel like editing. I don't want to look at the computer screen. Let me build something. So I always have all those different types of tasks around me so that every day, no matter what my mood is, because it is hard to go in and shoot every day. It's hard to go in and edit every day. It's hard to go on and build every day. But by having all of those tasks available at my fingertips, I can always get ahead on something a little bit. And that's what's worked for me to be able to keep going every day. It hasn't become so much of a grind. Like I'll beat something to death and then never want to do it again. Like I used to eat those $1 McChicken sandwiches when I was like a college student. I probably must have eaten like 2,000 of them in about a 4-year period. And then one day I was just like, I can never go to McDonald's again. And so I don't want that to happen with FPV. So I got to mix it up.
Yeah, sure. No, man, I absolutely. I think, yeah. I mean, you touched on something there too that was really interesting, which was the, like, it's your choice, right? Like, you get to decide, like, if you want to do it or not. But you also, like, you got to get it done. Like, if you're committing to get something done, get it done when you can. Like, that's, I think, something that I should not struggle with, but it's what has gotten me to here is, you know, sometimes I could like, hey man, I could sit down and wait 3 days to build that drone. But if I still have to build that drone in 3 days and somebody buys one tomorrow, I got to build another one. So build it today, Troy, be ready for the next one coming in. Right. So yeah, again, I think that's something that a lot of people, when they're wanting to figure out how to do something for themselves or how to work, like start something, they think that kind of stuff's just going to come to them eventually. And it's like, even when stuff's trickling in and like my website's working and we're doing live streams and people are checking us out and you know, we post about Gab doing work and people call us, you know, from companies that want to learn what we were doing. Like, that's great, but you can't count on it, man. You got to get out there and you got to grind, right? And at the end of the day, it's a grind. Like, if you want anything, whether it's a hobby or a side hustle, or you want something to be your main hustle, it's always going to be a grind. But with the side hustle, you get to kind of choose a little bit more if you want to grind or not.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to close it out here. I would love to hear from both of you, like a 2-sentence tip on being in business or starting a business or being productive. Jon, I'll let you go because I know Troy's going to have to. He's going to have to ponder to condense all the thoughts into 2 sentences.
I've already said it over and over. It's all good.
All right.
So 2 sentences on how to be productive or how to start something.
Up to you.
So, I mean, the main thing that I've learned is you can watch as many of this type of content as possible, but you have to find somebody that you recognize the type of level of passion that you have as somebody else. And then more importantly is what type of a worker are you? So what I just described is what works for me because I have a varying attention span at times. I have different moods where I want to do different things. There's some people that are like what Troy was saying. Once I start something, I want to finish it. I don't want it on my plate. I want to be able to relax for the rest of the day, kick open a beer. And so you got to realize which type of worker am I, and then tailor everything around you to fit that. Because if you are one type and you're trying to do the other type because somebody told you, or that's just the way that you learned it, you're never going to quite get into that rhythm where you're comfortable. You're always going to be grinding your gears. If I force myself to do the same thing every day, I could probably be just as productive, but I would start to burn out. I'd get tired of those McChicken sandwiches. And so it's like, learn how you work, learn what you're interested in. And, you know, if you're thinking about doing something and you've thought about it and you've told somebody about how you're going to do it, and you get to like the 5th time or the 10th time you're telling somebody and you still haven't done anything, like, stop telling people, go do it. And if you're not going to do it, don't tell anybody else about it and waste their time listening to you talk about doing it. Just start it and do it. And if you don't have the capacity to do it, then just give up and come up with another idea that you actually will do. Because a lot of people spend so much time, and I did this too, because I could be so much farther along if I would have started this channel when I first thought of it. I mean, I had made reviews in my head. I had said them out loud. I didn't put them on camera and I didn't upload them. Why? Because I didn't think I was ready. I wanted to do too much stuff. I was overcomplicating it. I wanted to put in lights and all this other stuff. Like, no. If I would have started, I would have been better faster. And that's the main takeaway. If you keep talking about it, not doing anything, no. Just start. You'll learn by doing. And that's my takeaway.
Dude, lots of sentences there. But
I know. Jon just channeled his inner Troy. It was fantastic.
I don't even know what. No, straight up. No, I mean, everything you said. I mean, I could reiterate it or I could rephrase it, but at the end of the day, you know, John's 100% on there, man. So for me, I think it's about, first of all, know what you can do. You're only going to be able to do what you really can do. Just because you can't do everything you need to do to start the business that you think you want to do doesn't mean that you can't have that business eventually. So like Jon said, take action. You got an idea, figure out how to make that a little bit more action with the idea. An idea is just an idea until you take the action of like talking to someone about it. Who do you know that would be interested in it? Or who do you know that already does something closely related or something? Like, you would be surprised how many times I just text message somebody random in my network. Hey bro, just had this crazy idea. It's the best ever. And I know you can code it, so tell me how to do it. And they literally will tell me 9 times out of 10, Troy, that's ridiculous. But you know what? Every once in a while you have that idea and you ping the right person and they're like, damn, we could do that. Hey man, we could do that for real cheap. And I'm actually interested in that. Let's do that together. And that's how business works. People, this is not about, I have to have the only idea on how to do something the only way possible. This is about, how do you make money for you while helping people with something they're willing to pay money for? Period. If you overcomplicate it with but so-and-so said, is so-and-so paying you? No? Okay, shut up. Talk to so-and-so that pays you and only them. And again, if you can deliver what they're willing to pay you for, do it. Do it again. Figure out how to streamline it. Figure out how to make it better. And all along though, if you're wanting to start a business, the number one, no bullshit, this is it. Branding. Seriously, figure out what you want to do. And it doesn't have to be, it's a square with 3 letters in it, guys. It's just literally just imprinted on everything we do. And the name itself became, literally, it wasn't meant to be literal, but it became literal by what we were doing. And I literally just was building drones for just barely above cost, selling them to people that appreciated what we did. And eventually we raised the cost to a level that made it able to scale to this size. Again, nothing crazy here, guys. I'm not making hundreds of thousands of dollars in profits, but I found a way to grind it out, to believe in myself and what we could do, to stand with people that believed in us and work with people that did the things we don't do very well or we don't know very much about, and just do it, man. Like Jon said, you got to get up and do it. You've got to. There's got to be action, whatever that action is, and it's going to be 98% you. But there's going to be a whole lot of help around the way on certain little bits of it that you're not doing a whole lot, other people are doing. But the totality of it is all you.
Well, thank you very much. I believe that the last word is going to go to Bruce, because it should. Bruce says, keep your clothes on, even for your fans.
Oh, Bruce.
Can
I just say one thing about Bruce since he's watching?
Yes.
I used to watch Bruce back in the
CC3D.
CC3D days, when I have a video on my old channel of me tuning, trying to tune a CC3D, but not after I watched Bruce's method, and I ignored all of it. I ignored it all, and some dude messaged me and said, I have a better way than what you just talked about on the forum, because I think I was on a forum at the time. It wasn't even Facebook. And, and they sent me this like methodology, and I made a video. It didn't work. I went back and I started watching Bruce again.
I find that's so typically a good call. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, thank you very much for tuning in to the Jon Esca Show. I am your co-host, Michael Rollins. This is Troy Naquin from Quad Standard Labs with us. And we hope that you will subscribe to all of us. And good seeing y'all. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Peace.